This is the reality nobody talks about. You've just turned 65, you've worked your entire life. Decades of showing up, doing what you were told, paying your bills, building a career, taking care of your family. Now it's finally time to stop. You sit down, maybe for the first time, and really look at your finances. And there it is. One number. Your entire life reduced to a single number. $88,000. That's all you have to fund the next 20, maybe 30 years of your life. And in that moment, everything changes. You start asking questions you never thought you'd have to ask. Can I stay in my home? Will I need to rely on my kids? What happens if something goes wrong? And here's the uncomfortable truth. That situation isn't rare. It's normal. Half of people approaching retirement are in that exact position. Or worse, some have even less. Some have nothing. And when you combine that with Social Security, you're looking at roughly $2,000 a month. That's supposed to cover everything. Housing, food, healthcare, transportation, everything. One unexpected expense, and the entire system starts to fall apart. And what makes this even more dangerous is that most people don't see it coming. Because the path to that outcome doesn't look like failure. It looks normal. It looks like everyday life. It looks like reasonable decisions repeated over and over again. So let's break down where things actually go wrong. The first mistake is simple. Waiting. Most people don't start investing early. Not because they're lazy, but because life feels more urgent. You're building your life, paying off debt, trying to enjoy yourself. You tell yourself you'll start later, next year, when things calm down, when you earn more. But time is the most important factor in building wealth. And every year you delay costs you more than you realize. Someone who starts early, even with small amounts, can end up with more money than someone who starts later with much larger contributions. That sounds strange at first, but it's how compounding works. Time matters more than effort. 10 years of early investing can outperform decades of late investing. But most people don't feel that loss when it happens. They feel it later, when there's no time left to fix it. The second mistake is something almost everyone experiences. You start earning more. And instead of building wealth, you upgrade your life. A better apartment, a nicer car, more convenience, more comfort. And none of that is wrong, but there's a hidden cost. Your expenses grow with your income. So even though you're earning more, you're not actually getting ahead. You just feel like you are. And that's the trap. Because financially, nothing has changed. You're still living at the edge of your income, just at a higher level. This is why people making $10,000 a month can feel just as stressed as people making $3,000. Because the system hasn't changed. Only the numbers have. The third mistake is where people quietly destroy their own progress. They stop contributing. They pause investing, or worse, they take money out. It might be for a good reason, a new job, an emergency, a temporary need. And in the moment, it feels like the right decision. But what you're really doing is breaking the system that was supposed to build your future. Because that money wasn't just sitting there, it was growing, compounding, becoming something much bigger over time. And when you take it out, you don't just lose what you had, you lose what it could have become. A decision that feels small today can cost you hundreds of thousands in the future. And the worst part? You don't feel that loss immediately, so it's easy to repeat. Now, here's where everything changes. Because the difference between people who retire comfortably and those who struggle is not income, it's behavior. The people who get it right don't do anything flashy. They don't rely on luck. They don't chase trends. They build simple systems, and they stick to them. The first thing they do is automate everything. They don't wait until the end of the month to see what's left, because there's never anything left. Instead, they move money automatically, from their paycheck straight into savings and investments, before they even have a chance to spend it. This removes decision-making, and that's important, because relying on discipline is unreliable. Relying on systems works. The second thing they do is save at a meaningful rate. Not 5%, not whatever feels comfortable, but enough to actually change their future. 15 to 20%. That number might sound high, but over time it creates a massive difference. And here's the key. It doesn't feel massive day to day. It feels like a small adjustment, but over decades, it completely changes the outcome. The third thing they do is invest properly. They don't leave their money sitting in low return accounts. They understand that where your money sits matters. because the difference between low returns and solid returns is enormous over time. Two people can save the same amount and end up in completely different financial positions just because of how their money was invested. The fourth thing they do is protect the system. They don't touch their investments early. They don't break the structure because they understand that consistency is what creates results. And once you interrupt that consistency, you lose momentum. The fifth thing they understand is this: wealth is built in small decisions, not big ones, not dramatic ones, daily ones. Do you spend or save? Do you upgrade or wait? Do you consume or invest? Each decision feels insignificant, but over time, they compound into something very real. This is where most people get it wrong. They think building wealth requires major sacrifices. It doesn't. It requires consistent, intentional behavior. The difference between someone who retires with very little and someone who retires comfortably can come down to surprisingly small choices, even something as simple as a daily expense, a habit, a routine. Repeated over years, this is what creates the gap. And once you see it this way, you realize something important. The outcome isn't random. It's predictable. If you follow the same patterns as most people, you'll likely get the same result. And that result is not what people expect. But if you change the pattern, even slightly, you change the outcome. And that's the opportunity, because no matter where you are right now, you still have influence over your future. If you're younger, time is on your side. Small actions now will have massive effects later. If you're in the middle of your career, adjusting your behavior can still dramatically change your trajectory. Even if you feel behind, progress is still possible. And even if you're closer to retirement, improving your situation is still better than doing nothing. Because the biggest mistake is not starting. Most people don't end up struggling in retirement because they made terrible decisions. They end up there because they delayed decisions. They told themselves they'd start later, and later never came. That's how you slowly move toward that number. Not through one big mistake, but through years of inaction. So now the question becomes simple. Which path are you on? Are you following the default, or are you intentionally choosing something different? Because in the end, you don't accidentally build a comfortable future. You build it on purpose. Through small decisions, repeated consistently, day after day. And the difference between those two outcomes can be everything.